Hi guys, this is the first video in the watercolor demonstration that we're doing in class. We're going to be working on getting the drawing down today and the sky. We're not working on putting the land for the background, the middle ground, or the foreground yet. We're going to do that in the next video. So what you needed to accomplish to be prepared for today was finding 3 images that inspired you. I found this image. The sky and the clouds were inspirational to me, so I'm going to use this kind of idea or try to imitate it the best I can for my demonstration painting. I also found this image. I liked the mountains far away and some of these grassy tree-like hills in the background. So I'm going to use that for my inspiration for my middle ground. And then I also want to put some big trees in the foreground. Possibly some aspen trees as well for that front layer. I also found this painting in my store bin that had a lot of little crystals in the front that could work into flowers, so I might try to use that technique in the foreground as I'm planning my painting today. I also found this little painting that had some wild grass that was more abstract in the front that I also might use. We'll just see kind of how it goes. So I have my images for inspiration. They could be images that come from paintings. It could be pictures you take. It could be screensavers. It could really come from any place, as long as you're using at least 3 and collaging them together to make your own painting. So to get started, I'm going to draw it out. The drawing is very quick. It's very simple. There's no detail in the drawing. You're starting with a horizon line, so where the sky meets the ground. So I'm going to say my horizon line is maybe about right there. I want the land to be below that line and my sky to be above that line. Now we are working with 3 layers: background, middle ground, and foreground. So I start drawing from the back. So my background, let's say I want some mountains coming up from that ground level. That's one row. Perhaps I want another series of mountains that overlap in front of that. Now if that's overlapping in front, I need to make sure that I erase everything that is going behind. Right? There's an overlapping law. Perhaps I have some hills here in the front. Some rolling hills as they get closer, and maybe a closer hill about like that. Okay, so I have my background with my mountains, my middle ground would be the hills, and then my foreground, I said I wanted some trees, so I could draw some big old trees here. Maybe they're so close I can't see where they sit on the ground. Erase the section that's being overlapped. And maybe a second tree right here. Maybe there's a little branch coming off. Maybe I want this one sitting on the ground, so I'm going to put some little roots, possibly where it sits on to the hill or the grass in the front. Now, before you start drawing and painting, make sure you review those laws of perspective posted on Schoology to make sure that your drawing shows depth. Okay, so right now I have the overlapping law happening. I have the size law. My trees are big in the front. My hills are big. My mountains are smaller as they move back. My surface law, things lower down on the paper are closer to me than things higher up. So this hill is closer because it's down low on the paper. These hills are farther away because they're higher up on the page. So make sure you review those laws as you're drawing so you don't draw it inaccurately. Okay. I also have a little cheat sheet that I like to keep near me while I'm painting that gives me an idea of what's going to happen with the color and the objects as they move into the background and move into the foreground. So you could use this as a guide as well as you're drawing and painting. Once you have your drawing down, you're ready to start your sky. So simple lines, nothing is really defined. These lines, keep them light in your painting. I know I'm drawing them a little bit darker so you can see them here on the screen. So once I have my drawing down, I'm starting right into my sky. What I would recommend is using your bigger flat brush or a bigger brush, and you are going to paint your entire sky with just plain water. Okay, no color yet, you're just wetting the page. We're using a wet on wet technique. For the sky. Now I am not putting water on my tree trunks. I'm trying to save my whites. You always try to save your whites with watercolor painting. If you're having trouble painting around your tree, you could tape your tree out like I did here in this little drawing. Just use a little bit of masking tape and tape it over, and that way you can paint right over the top and your tree won't get colored with your sky or your mountains or your hills. Okay, I'm just painting around my trees in this particular case because my trees are pretty thick, and I feel like I can control the paint and keep them out of the tree. Okay, once you wet your sky, you're coming in with your color. And I like to start at the top because the sky tends to be darker at the top and lighter at the base. So I'm going to apply some color. I'm trying to work fast so my paint doesn't dry, and I'm trying to be consecutive across the paper. I'm going to rinse out my brush and just use plain water to stroke that hard seam to make it soft. Okay, I want everything right now to be soft and kind of fade into the next color. I'm going to insert some different kinds of blues as well, because if I look at my inspirational image, there's a bunch of different kinds of blues and grays in the clouds. So I'm going to try to incorporate those kind of colors just to imitate my inspiration. So I'm pulling some of my cerulean blue with my ultramarine. Perhaps give it a little bit of some puffiness, like a cloud. Okay, you want to work kind of fast. I don't want this to dry just yet. I also don't want it to drip. I don't want to use so much water that it's dripping down into my mountains. If it is dripping down into your mountains, you have too much water. I'm actually going to add a little bit of orange to my blue because my clouds had some gray in them. So if you mix the complement in with the color, you get a gray, and blue's complement is orange. So I'm going to mix some orange in to try to imitate some of those grays. To give it variety in my clouds. Okay, and it's not going to be exactly how you imagine it in your head. That's just the nature of the watercolor paints. We can always come back and embellish this later, which I'll show you how to do that in our last final detail layer. Okay, so my goal for this first day is just to cover the sky and get some color down. And get my drawing on my page. And that's as far as I'm going to get.